Welcome to the Veil Between Lives, a sanctuary where lived experience meets the great mystery. Here we hold soulful conversations with those who have touched the unseen and what lies beyond the physical world. We're honored you're here stepping into this space with us. I'm Susan, and I'm joined by my co-host, Em. And we have a very, very special guest today. We're so excited to have Denise Elizabeth Byron, who is a psychic, mentor, visionary guide, who weaves astrology, numerology, intuition, and embodied wisdom together, exploring the deeper patterns of life paths and purpose. Through soulful, refined, and deeply attuned guidance, she helps clients navigate, change, reclaim their gifts, trust their inner knowing, and step forward with greater clarity, grace, alignment, and connection to their soul's authentic, sacred, and radiant evolution. Oh, so excited to have you here, Denise.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be
Oh,
here.
I love it, love it. Oh, we've got some juicy stuff in store today.
Yay.
I'm wondering if you would maybe start back in early life. And anything maybe that came up, intuition, spiritual experience, or anything that you think may have kind of led you to the path that you're on now.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me here. It is such a delight to be with both of you. And I know there are so many people out there that have had childhoods probably similar to the ones that we have had. And so when I share this in the context of knowing that I was fortunate to not have to shut things fully down. So when I share this, I want to say that my childhood allowed me to pursue the unusual and the unseen. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know how many people have so much empathy and compassion for how many people have had to shut down those extra senses early on. So one of the things I remember, and I do tell this story a lot because it is the story of how everything started to coalesce. I was probably about 7.5. And I had spent a lot of time with my grandmother. I was very lucky to have a grandmother who wanted to teach me how to crochet and how to play the piano and how to make candles. And so we bonded in a really particular way, which, when we're very fortunate when that happens. So when she passed on, I was devastated. I was 7.5. It wasn't the first time death had come, but this was the first person in my life who I was close to. And I will remember this always. I walked out of my bedroom. I already knew she had passed. And I was downstairs by myself. And I looked up and there she was. She was kind of hovering right in front of me. And I just started talking to her. How are you, Grandma? Where are you, Grandma? Are you coming back, Grandma? And she just very gently explained at that time, and it's still very moving. I mean, that was a long time ago, and it was very moving. She said, I couldn't stay here on earth, and I can be with you now every day. So, of course, I'm trying to understand what that means. I'm 7.5. I have kind of an idea. So we just start talking about whatever we're talking about that day. And then I run upstairs to tell my mother. And this is where I think this story is important as an important thing maybe for parents now, right? I went up and I told my mother and she said, "Good. I'm glad she came to you." That was a big plus because right then and there, I knew that it was going to be okay. I also got a vibe like, don't talk about this. Like, don't be telling other people, but it's okay. Like, it's good that she's there with you. So I for a while, she was there all the time. And it was, I think, part of my own process, learning how to see what was on the other side. What I noticed from that moment forward, though, was that everything was different. I had experiences. This one did make my mother a little nervous. I'll have to share this one. Um, we lived in the countryside, and there was a little graveyard, like a little family graveyard from some other family on the acreage next to us. And I used to go for these long. This is back when you could just go for long walks in the middle of nowhere. And walking through these orchards, I found myself at this graveyard, and I was probably about at that point, maybe 8. And I had learned to read. I was a late learner. I have dyslexia. So I was a late reading person, but I had learned to read. So I was reading these different little tombstones. And I just naturally wondered what had happened to these people. And most of them were children who had passed away, probably during an epidemic. Like if I were an adult, I'd be able to figure this out. But at the time, I didn't quite understand what had happened. And so I just started talking to them. So what happened to you? What kind of life did you have? And they would tell me stories. And then I'd come home and my mother would say, where were you? And I said, I was out playing with the kids.
Love it. Love
And
it.
she was like, oh, well, we don't have any neighbors with kids and they're really far away. She's like, so where were you? I said, well, I was out playing with the kids. You know, the kids. She's like, maybe you should show me. So I walked her out there and she got a good picture of that. And that one she didn't really encourage. I'll just be honest. That was a little, but I mean, I didn't feel like I had to shut it down. I just thought, okay, this is my private time. I'm 8.5. This is my private time. I'm going to go talk to the kids. So those were just a few things. And, you know, beyond that, I can't say that there were instances of like knowing the future or anything prophetic per se. I always knew I was highly sensitive. I always knew that there were things going on that I would sense that people weren't saying. You know, a lot of people in your audience are empaths, if not 100%. And so growing up as someone with highly empathic qualities, I was aware that I was feeling a lot beyond what was actually going on the surface. So, anyway, that was the young life. And then as I got older, I learned to shut it down just a little bit because when you're in school and you're talking about the kids nearby, so I learned, okay, maybe we don't talk about this at school. And so then in my 20s, so, you know, I told you this story a little bit when we talked before, but I met a mentor, a psychic mentor. She used to work for police departments, helping them find people who were lost. That's a very gentle way to say what she would do. And so I learned from her how to work with the energy. So by now I'm 21 and I've had, you know, 2 decades, I guess, of really having that energy around me all the time, talking to the animals, talking to the trees, feeling like this is just how people live. And then I'm in this training with this woman who does this pretty hardcore psychic work. And I realized that is probably not my path. Like that is very challenging work. But it was good training. I learned a lot. And I began at that point to work with my friends and do a lot of psychic readings. And eventually, many decades later, lots of growth, other mentors who were extraordinary. I found my way to what I do now, which is a combination of teaching and coaching, astrology, numerology, and a lot of other tools. All of us who work in this realm, we come in with some amazing tools and gifts that we get to use. So that's my very long-winded, quick background.
It's a rich one. I love it.
Thank you.
So I think my question is, I'm kind of curious how you blend those gifts. Is it just an intuitive thing? I know you have several, so do
It's a
these
great
things just,
question.
yeah, and maybe even, I don't know, do you start out with one and then the others roll in or?
great question. And I bring this up as a way to maybe help other people think about what is going to work better for each of us when we share our gifts. So for a long time, I would do mediumship readings. And I'm smiling because I can remember my friends who volunteered their living room. And, it's just the people who are there with you on the journey that are so great. They volunteered their living room and they would invite their friends. So I could really have like people I didn't know. And that was wonderful experience. And it was depleting. And I was noticing that I was getting depleted. So I learned more tools and I thought, this still isn't quite right for me. So as I trained to be a life coach, and I had been a teacher for a while, and then I trained to be a life coach, I started to realize that the greatest gift I could give to people is to listen, actually, to really listen and to honor their path and purpose and purposes, because I think we have more than one path and more than one purpose. And so, what I didn't mention earlier, which goes into the story, is that my mother was an amateur astrologer. So I grew up with astrology, and you two know this, but like many daughters, I chose that I couldn't possibly do astrology. I needed to do something different. I needed to distinguish myself differently. But I found actually that I had learned astrology and I came back to it. And the astrology map became a portal for me, and it gave me an opportunity to dive into the energies in a cleaner way that also protected my energy, and it gave me energy. So now I can work with many people and still, I mean, some days are longer than others, but still have energy left for my life. And I still do the mediumship when it comes up. So it has become something that is there that I am so grateful. And we can talk about, okay, you can ask me anything about that, but I have heard things as you have. I've learned things that blow my mind, right? And at the same time, having the astrology portal also gives me an opportunity to listen to what people's deepest questions are, look at the astrology, and offer some ideas. Our souls come in with a map, and it's not a map to a destination. It's more of a here's where we start, and we have free will. So here are some choices. Here are some possibilities. Here are some things your soul said it wanted to work on this time around. Here's some things that you might want to consider. And there are paths mapped out, not that they are hard and fast, but they're a trajectory. They allow us to travel. So that's why I blend astrology first, then the mediumship if it comes up, if someone, if it's there, I'm not going to ignore it because I really value. And then there's other tools that I bring in for healing and support, including coaching, including teaching. I like to make things practical. I like to have it make sense for our lives now. We're on this soul evolution journey, and we're also living on Earth. So how do we do it together? So hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Great answer. Can you share with our audience, and I think our audience is pretty savvy, but I'm curious kind of how and why astrology works, and is there science behind it?
Okay, that's always such a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, astrology has been around for thousands of years. And I use Western astrology only, so you can imagine that Vedic astrology has been around even longer. Asian astrology, Islamic astrology, all of that has been around even longer probably than the Greek and Roman. I'm more trained in the Hellenistic, although I use evolutionary astrology, which is the more modern form. Okay. So why does it work even all these years later? Is it based on astronomy? Well, think about it. This is great. The first thing the first humans would do is look up at the stars at night and the moon and watch the cycle of the moon and the sun, right? The seasons but the cycle of the moon was the most obvious shift every night. Imagine that the moon changes And then the stars around the moon change. So astronomy is a basis for astrology. It's not the same. I'm not at all putting them in the same category, but the idea that the stars and the planets, they're part of our world. We are part of this. Now, obviously, for a long time, people thought the earth was the center of the universe, right? They didn't know that the sun, everything was going around the sun. So the astrology as it came through is earth centered. We are the center in the astrology chart. The earth is in the middle and everything's going around us. But it still works. And why does it work? Because thousands of years of witnessing, observation, cataloging, really looking at human behavior, watching for qualities in humans that were born. Wow, this season, look, all these people are like, they have some similar qualities. Wow, when a person's born under a full moon, whoa, they're really interesting. They're born under a new moon. Oh, what is that like? But we've got thousands of years of lots of observation. Now, is it scientific? I suppose on some level, if we consider that science is mystical and that good science starts with curiosity and a question of how does this work, then we can say that if we approach astrology not from a place of this is how it is and this is your predestined path, but we approach astrology as how could this work for me? That's a scientific approach because a good scientist is a good mystic. They're not going to shut down something they never thought of. I mean, what would be the point? The whole point of science is to discover something that no one else has ever seen or thought of. So the way I see it, astrology has this amazing richness, so many layers. You could literally, the moon in particular, you could do moon astrology and just watch the phases of the moon from your own chart and never touch another planet ever. And you could live life in a much more rich form. I love astrology. You can imagine I have Venus and Gemini, so I love to be curious. Okay. So I love all the layers. And sometimes the simplest thing is to look at the full moon. When we've been recording this, we just had a full moon, or the new moon, which we're going to be having, and possibly when this is released, might even be on a new moon. So we look at the moon cycles and we say, how is that interacting with my energy? It's not I'll say these words sometimes like, gosh, how is that affecting me? But it's more about, because we have free will, how is that energy interacting with my energy? And that's how we learn how to be in our astrology, to live our astrology, and to honor our astrology. That's the most important part. I always talk about learning and living astrology. So helpful to begin to understand the soul's journey through the stars. So is it about prediction? Not really. Can we look at trajectories? Absolutely. Can we look at the past? Absolutely. But the point of it is to learn and then live.
Yeah. Hmm. Beautiful.
You can
I
tell I'm
love
really
it.
passionate about this.
Absolutely. I love it. I love your passion.
I'm also wondering, so can you also see past lives? I mean, is it an even bigger story than what we're living right now or will live in 10 years?
That is such a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Yes, the short answer of that is yes. There are places in the astrology chart that are really exciting to look at in terms of past lives, which I have to honor the work that you both do. Thank you so much. I'm just going to do a little going to do a little promotion for you right now. Um, in between life work is so powerful. It is something, it offers healing that really nothing else does. And I'm just going to say that. Okay. So to that point, in astrology, there are a couple of places. Now, I'm going to look at the South Node and the North Node, which is something I'm really passionate about. The South Node in astrology is our past lives. It's where we've been. It's what we come in with. And our North Node is where we're stretching to in this lifetime. It's not a place that we get to right away. We work at that. We are climbing a mountain. There's some amazing, still to this day, I think Jan Spiller was the most, she really, her work really helped me understand the nodal astrology. There are others who are equally as brilliant. The idea behind the South Node and the North Node, they're connected to the moon. They're the moon's nodes. So once again, we come back to the moon. And just as a side note, you'll begin to learn that I have side notes. I promise I'll come back to the question. Side note, there are places in the world, one in the United States in particular, in New Mexico, that are built with stones that honor this complete cycle of the moon. So we know that the moon has a cycle that takes roughly around 29 days, right? But there is a greater cycle that's about 18 and a half years. And these stone sites honor that 18 and a half year cycle, which is profound. People were really watching the moon and honoring it. So when we come in having had these past lives. And so we have strengths and we have tools. And so you all said that I could share a little bit. So Susan, when you came in with the most amazing, and actually M too, because you have the same South Node and North Node, which is really cool, which you did not know before we started this.
No.
Both of you come in with an incredible eye for detail, ear for detail, a desire to offer the best that you can in terms of healing, in terms of how to live every single day. You both will work to make sure that excellence is part of what you offer. That's what you came in with. And you will both seek, interesting based on your questions, you will both seek to make sure that it's provable. That's your past life. And that stems from probably being, believe it or not, scientists or people in medicine of any kind in previous lifetimes. Okay. This lifetime, not surprising given what you do now, you're stretching into the spiritual. You're stretching into being empaths and being the most compassionate beings and being able to bring together the science and the mystical in something that offers people a glimpse at how they can heal through compassion, how they can heal through their own soul's journey, which describes exactly what you both do, which is phenomenal to me. I mean, I know you do a lot more than that, but it just kind of blows my own mind, really, because, this is what astrology does. So that South Node, there are things we need to leave behind. Okay. Just like any good past life session, there are things we need to leave behind because sometimes, and this is why people come to the work, whether it's coming to understand more about it through astrology or more about it through your work, we have patterns. And one of the patterns that can come through from a South Node in Virgo is the need for perfection and not actually taking that step forward because there's a desire to make sure it's perfect before doing it. Okay. Now, I'm sure, however that might relate in any form. So what you're here to do is let go of that. Let go of the need for perfection and understand, Pisces, divine perfection. Understand divine timing. Understand that things, and I know you both are like this. So this is, again, you've had You have had a lifetime now to learn this. So the stretch will include, it will include opportunities for learning, we call them, right? We call them opportunities for learning. So there, so there'll be lots of those, and there will be with a Pisces North node. Sometimes there's a journey that has to be an individual internal journey around what is faith. What do I believe in? What is the divine? How do I work with that? How do I categorize that? And then ultimately, when you're bringing them together, because you don't want to lose the good qualities from the South Node from your previous lifetimes, you want to bring all that healing knowledge, all the knowledge around healing with you into this lifetime, and then offer it with this beautiful compassion and empathy. So you are blending science and mysticism together in your own way, and that's your path. So that's the best possible way to use the South Node. Chiron is another planet. Very often we look at Chiron for childhood wounds, like childhood here in this lifetime. And I have found in my many, many years of experience now, Chiron also offers us a glimpse into potentially past life wounds, because we can carry those with us. We can bring anything into this lifetime, as you know. So I think I'm going to double check this before I say this out loud. Yeah, you both have Chiron in Aries. And so the Chironic wound doesn't have to always evolve from this lifetime. And the Chironic wound is with Aries, and a lot of people have Chiron in Aries. By the way, planets' orbits are elliptical, they're not round. So they spend more time in some signs than others. Turns out Aries is one of the signs that Chiron spends a lot of time in. So there's a lot of people out there probably listening right now with Chiron in Aries. The Chiron in Aries wound can be something along the lines of, I'm too much. I should pull back my energy. Nobody, watch my body language. No one's really understanding me. I think maybe I should just protect myself now because I'm not feeling loved right now. And the most important thing from that past life is usually being shut down in various and sundry ways for having energy, for having power. There's Chiron and Aries. We need all of you. I have Chiron and Pisces, so I come from a different generation, the one before you. Chiron and Aries, we need you because we need you to step in and be the pioneer, be the path creator, be the pathfinder. But we need you to know that we love you. You are not more than enough. You're just exactly right for the job that you came here to do, for the mission you came here to do, for who you came here to be. And that being is one that shares incredible gifts for helping other people find their power, for helping other people understand that shutting down their own energy isn't serving them. So that's part of your gift, but it's also part of your journey. And it can come from past life, and it can come from this one too. So that's just two possibilities.
Love it. Very interesting. It's fascinating to me. God. Are there other things that you see in a chart, like major life events, or maybe I should put areas of opportunities that stand out, that things that can serve us, that we can work with to our benefit, especially if we kind of understand what's coming at us, and maybe some tools to work with it ahead of time.
Yes. One of my favorite planets is Saturn, a much maligned planet, I might add. Saturn, we often hear Saturn being said that it is creating challenges for us. That's not untrue. There are challenges in life, and we can look at Saturn to understand what those challenges can be in our natal chart, so like what we're born with, but also as Saturn moves, and it takes about 29 years to go around a chart, as it moves through a chart, We have opportunities for growth, we call them opportunities for growth. So we can look at where Saturn is in the chart right now and say, wow, this is where my opportunity for growing is. And this is very exciting. I'm all excited now. February 20th of this year, 2026, we had Saturn and Neptune come together at 0 degrees Aries. Okay. Saturn takes a long time to go around, 29 years. Neptune takes even longer, 128 years, I think. Don't quote me on that. But it takes a long time to go around. And they do come together every so often. And there's, you can look at our history and you can see when Saturn and Neptune come together in Aries, evolution has to occur. Saturn says, here's your opportunity to learn something. And Neptune says, here's a better vision. And when they're in Aries, there's a lot of energy for that. So that's where we are right now. The coming together at 0 degrees on February 20th was over 6,400 years in the making. It has been over 6,000 years since they came together at the 0 degree point. To me, I'm just like, wow, we chose to incarnate at this time for a reason. So even though things are wonky, to say the least, we're here. We're here to dive in. And so one of the opportunities that Saturn is giving everybody now is, what is the right use of power? That's the Aries. So going back to what I was saying about Chiron and Aries, how do I utilize the power? How do I use my life force? How do I not shut down? How do I do this appropriately so that I am honoring the sacred, but also honoring this energy that I have to create? That's a very Aries energy. Saturn says, that's great. And what are the structures? What's a better structure? And then the Neptune piece says, how are you looking at your spiritual values and applying those right now with all this energy with Saturn in Aries? And Saturn will say, you have an opportunity to do something different. You have an opportunity to learn from, and if you're old enough, the last 29 years of your life. I mean, if we all just took a moment and looked back, we have to go back to 1997. Did I do math right? Yeah, I think so. Go back to 1997 and see where you were individually in 1997 and where you are now. And you think about the cycle. We're not going to repeat it. It's not about repeating, because a lot of people are like, don't make me go back. We're not going back. We are going forward, but we're taking the lessons we've learned. And that's what Saturn's all about. What did you learn? What did you learn? So, Susan, for example, just for example, Saturn has just entered your 10th house of career and contribution for the first time in 29 years. And look at what you're doing. I'm getting chills right now. Oh my gosh. Look at what you're doing right now. I'm almost going to cry. This is how much astrology means to me. Because yes, can you track the opportunities? 100,000%. Saturn's saying, Susan, we have a 2-year journey now where you're really going to focus on your contribution. You're really going to focus on why you're here right now. Okay. And then M, not to leave you out because I have your chart here too. Saturn has just entered, believe it or not, your house of play and confidence and joy. So Saturn says to you, how can you combine work, that's a Saturn thing, discernment, with joy, with play? How can you increase your confidence as you enjoy your life more? So the big key to that is to do something you're passionate about. Be creative in your approach. And so Saturn's going to give you opportunities for that, Em. And here's one of them. And look how much fun this is. Look how much fun this is.
Yeah.
So you're both getting opportunities. Now, some people will say, oh, but Saturn's going to make it harder. I don't necessarily agree with that. So I'm just going to be really honest. I'm not saying it's easy. Saturn's in my 6th house. It's about to enter my 7th, but it's in my 6th house of health. And it's been there for 2 years. And anyone who knows me can tell you that I've had to pay attention to my health more in the last 2 years than I had for a while. Okay. So Saturn's saying you have an opportunity, Denise, to pay attention to your health. The way I would never say this to a client, but this is what I say to myself. Saturn says to me, get it together, girl. You got to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. Get the structures together, get the foundations together, be discerning. Those are all Saturn words. And so does Saturn make it hard? No. But Saturn says where there is hard, there is opportunity to learn. Where there are challenges, there's opportunities to learn. And that's not the only planet. That's just one of my favorites. There's so much. Jupiter. Okay, let's talk about Jupiter because I'm gonna segue. Jupiter is the planet of opportunity, blessings, wealth. But wealth. Okay, let's define wealth. Side note. Wealth is defined in Old English as well-being. Wealth is defined as, do you have enough firewood? Do you have shelter? Do you have cows? I mean, do you have food? Do you have clothes? So wealth was defined. You have to think about this. When astrology was, first being delved into, wealth didn't look how it looks to us here in the United States in this time, right? Wealth was well-being. So the root of the word wealth is well-being. So Jupiter offers us opportunities for well-being. Now, it is also the planet of wealth in astrology. So you can look at your natal Jupiter and find out about wealth, but you also find out about well-being. Okay, so Jupiter. For everyone right now, Jupiter has been in Cancer. And so Cancer is about nurturing. It's about intuition. It's about sensitivity, and it's about home and family as we define it. So, and nourishment and nurturing. Okay. So Jupiter's like, oof, wherever it is in your chart, big opportunities for nurturing, big opportunities for really honoring that sensitive self, really honoring the intuition. Okay. The segue. Jupiter is about to change, and I'm not being chronological, but since we're here at Jupiter, I'm going to go with this. Jupiter is changing at the end of June, and it's going to go from Cancer to Gemini. So we're going to go from a time, and Jupiter's only in a sign for about a year, and it's a fun planet to track in the chart because it takes 12 years to go around. So that's an easy, it's easy. It's easier to track 12 years than 29, I think. So, okay. So Jupiter is coming back in after 12 years into Gemini starting at the end of June. What does that mean? Well, we don't lose the reminders and opportunities to nourish, to nurture, to be empathic, to feel intuitive. We're not going to lose that. What we're gaining is curiosity about how can I do that more? How can I learn more? What courses, what classes do I want to take? What do I want to teach? How do I want to share this information? Do I want to write about it? Do I want to speak about it? Do I want to be in conversation? Do I want to have a podcast about this? Well, maybe. Jupiter in Gemini is all about that. So beginning this podcast while Jupiter's in Cancer is very nurturing. It's very nourishing. It's opening the heart, and it's saying, we're going to just be here with you on this journey. Jupiter in Gemini is going to take it up a notch, and it's going to be, here's what we're learning now. Okay. Everybody's going to be doing that. Okay. So that's pretty cool. And I'm really excited. And just to kind of give you a quick insight into this, your Jupiter, and actually I just lied. Jupiter's not going into Gemini. Okay, this is so much fun.
This is called real life. Nothing's
That's
perfect.
right.
Jupiter's going into, okay, Uranus is going into Gemini April 26th. See, in my mind, I've got it chronologically. Jupiter's going into Leo. Okay. So scratch all that, but it's okay. If you're listening, just have fun with this because everything I said applies to Uranus, and we'll get to that in a minute. Jupiter's going into Leo. I apologize for that. Jupiter into Leo. So let's start over. Nurturing, caring, empathy, intuition into creativity, joy, and fun. Okay? Now, creativity, joy, and fun. For some of us, we might need a little extra help about what does that look like, creativity, joy, and fun. But like for you, this is going to be about inspiration. This is going to be about what inspires you. And again, there is a shift into Gemini. I promise you, Uranus going into Gemini. So there is a shift into how can I be more curious about what is fun? How can I be more curious about what is creative? So this is why we layer, and this is why we connect the dots. It's so funny when I do these things and I get so excited and then I'm like off track. And for you, Susan, the exciting thing for you is, again, and it's interesting because it dovetails beautifully with the Saturn piece, is it's about visibility. Jupiter is about visibility and again, if we weave it into the Uranus going into Gemini, how can I be more curious about this Leo energy, Jupiter in Leo, about Leo energy of being seen, of standing out and standing up and sharing who you are, right? It's a beautiful transit. So let me just go back because I'm sure some of your listeners are like, oh my God, what is she saying? So let me just be very, very clear about the astrology. Jupiter is going into Leo. Cancer to Leo at the end of June. That part was right. Now, Uranus, we're going to go, okay, and Jupiter is the planet of great opportunity. Uranus is the planet of awakening. Okay? Uranus is the planet of awakening. Uranus has been in Taurus for about 7 years. Uranus is about to go into Gemini. And so we want to be curious about what is our awakening. We want to be curious about what awakens us. What do we want to learn? So all of what I said before is true. I just had the planets mixed up, which, trust me, this happens. It's the dyslexia, but I am actually tracking. And when I'm looking at charts, I can track it better. I'm not looking at the chart right now, so it's all in my head. But this idea of being able to awaken to what really opens our minds with Gemini, what really allows us to learn something new. Okay. So this year alone, this is one of the more unusual years. This is a year like nothing we've ever lived through in this lifetime, and we won't ever live through this again in this lifetime. Many of the long-term planets that take longer to go around, they've moved signs. That doesn't happen very often. Pluto moved into Aquarius last year. Saturn, Neptune moved into Aries. Uranus moves into Gemini. Jupiter moves into Leo. And Chiron will dip out of Aries and into Taurus and then back into Aries and then back into Taurus fully next year. That's a lot of change. And so the Uranian energy of the great awakener. Okay, so every planet. So Saturn is the great teacher. Jupiter is the great blessing, the great beneficent, the great teacher. And Uranus is the great awakener. Pluto is the great transformer. Neptune is the great visionary. So they all have these names, right? And so our great awakening planet moving into Gemini says the energy is only going to get faster than it is now. So what do? We have to stay centered. We should probably have notes that Denise looks at before she starts talking about planets moving into different signs. The movement and energy changes significantly. The Taurian energy of Uranus and Taurus is very much about how do I work with energy in my body? And also the Uranus and Taurus years have shown us that the earth is a living body. Yeah, it's kind of moving, huh? That the earth is a living body. And the earth has moods too. And the earth has responses to what we have done to the earth and the weather, the shifting, all of it. I keep thinking about, the volcanoes in Hawaii and actually all over the world, that the opening up of all this energy. Uranus and Taurus very often brings that type of physical response from the earth. Doesn't mean it's going to stop. It just means it's awakened. And inside us, you can imagine we're part of the earth. We're part earth. We're part stardust, right? So, and we are literally, okay, science, we are made up of stardust. Just so we remember this, scientifically, we have stardust in us. So, this is why we're talking about this. Having the earth remind us that we need to stay connected to her. And this is going to become ever more important after April 26th. It will be easy to do what I just did a few minutes ago, which is to switch something up. Not a big deal. You just come back and fix it. And we want to stay as grounded as possible, as centered as possible. So how do we do that? We need to connect with nature. We need to connect with the earth. And I would even venture to guess that those who really spend time working with earth as an entity, are going to have a lot more to say with Uranus and Gemini, which is interesting. You think, oh, well, Uranus and Taurus, the earth has a lot to say. Yes. And it's an activation that then we take with us. And that's where we get the learning, is when it moves from Taurus into Gemini. So Uranus is electrical energy. It's healing energy. It's electrical energy. It's progressive energy. It wants us to change. Uranus is a revolutionary planet. I call it the Great Awakener, but the other name for Uranus is the Great Disruptor. Sometimes things have to be disrupted in order for an awakening to happen. I'd prefer, and we had talked about this before, sometimes trauma is where we awaken, right? So Uranian energy can bring a lot. And, if we look back the last 7 years, you could look back at your own last 7-year cycle. I have a lot I could say, which I won't say, about my own life over the last 7 years in particular. A lot of change, right? Now, I am a Taurus. So Uranus and Taurus has brought a lot of change into my life. So I want to speak to the Geminis in your audience, because right now they're just like, what does this mean? I want to reassure them that I thought having Uranus in my own sign was really cool, as long as we remember to ground, center, and increase our capacity for this electrical energy. Okay? So to any Geminis out there, ground, center, and increase your capacity for healing energy to flow through you. And I just want to encourage everyone, we're not doing this in a vacuum. We have communities. Reach out to people in your communities, right? Pluto and Aquarius, all about get your communities. Create one if you don't have one. Be the first. Oh, Chiron and Aries people. Create a community, because it's part of what we need. We're not meant to do it all alone. We wouldn't be here if we were meant to do it all. This is not where we'd be. We're meant to connect with others who have other gifts and other ways of being. So while Uranus has been in Taurus, we've been learning about embodiment. We've been learning about how do I stabilize a lot of energy? So, and if you're still learning that, that's great. That's fabulous. When Uranus goes into Gemini, we're going to be learning, how do I stabilize all this mental energy? So it all builds on each other. You have to start from the bottom up. Stabilizing the body from the bottom up allows you to have a clean and clear mind. This is why practices like yoga reform. You do yoga before you meditate, not after. The idea is to work with the body first, Uranus and Taurus, and then you're in your mind. And I recognize that mind meditation is really to no mind, right? Is to move even beyond that. So again, we have a lot to look forward to, and I won't lie. This time, not lying. There's changes in the energy. When there's a change, April, June, February, all of it, right? When there's a change, we need to stay as centered as possible. Okay? If you think about, we've had 2 eclipses so far this year, right? Eclipse energy is wild. It's full. And again, we're talking about the moon again in the sun. Eclipses really bring change. When planets move from one sign to another, think about it in those terms. It's going to bring a lot of change. So, how do we respond to change? As a Taurus, it's probably better to not do that. And if you're listening and not watching, basically rooting in and not moving, not a good idea. Go with the change, be gentle with yourself, stay centered, but allow the change to move you, right? Allow change to move you. Healing happens when we allow the movement of energy through us, right? So that was very long-winded. I apologize if I kind of got a little off track, but I hope that answered some questions in there somewhere.
So, yes, perfect and fascinating. And I think everybody in our audience will have something to take away from that. So that's perfect. And I just learned some things too that I didn't know. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, and I should say this. I have lots of astrology mentors, and there are a lot of really excellent astrologers out there. My way of looking at astrology really does blend my own philosophies, my own cosmologies, and evolutionary astrology. That's really where I landed when I'm not a Hellenistic astrologer. Um, I use a Placidus style house system, which is to say, I use the time of birth where you were born, and we calculate the houses based on pretty specific degrees. Not all astrologers do that. And there is an astrology for everyone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn, is what I'm saying. So this is my version, and I'm very honored to be able to share how I see things today with you.
All of these changes and everything that's happening, and you used the word awakening.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to kind of expand on that a little, like through the work that you've done through the last 30 something years with astrology and working one-on-one with clients. I'm wondering if you've seen a shift in consciousness, if you're observing an awakening happening. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of change that's going to push us in a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What I have noticed, and this has been a real profound blessing for me, I feel really honored to be part of what is happening. I'm aware that many people are choosing to learn more about the soul, learn more about their own evolution. It's not, again, I talk to many clients every week, and some clients very definitely have one solid foot in what I would say the material world, like the earth world. And then they have another foot in the spiritual world. I have to say, that's pretty amazing to be able to walk in both worlds. And they will tell you that their interest in the spiritual, it comes usually when someone passes. There's a question about death. There's a question about what happens, to someone after death, but also their own soul. Like, why am I here? What am I doing here? I love that there has been an increase in wanting to know more, right? Now, I don't know. I can't imagine what it's like to grow up in today's world with all of the social media, all of the stuff that comes at us. One of my takeaways is that at the very least, things like past lives, astrology, psychic work have become so mainstream now. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Super cool. Now, Uranus and Gemini, by the way, now it's time to make sense of that and start to really learn. Pluto in Aquarius, many people want to deepen. Pluto in Aquarius is really the harbinger of a great awakening. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Remember Uranus, the great awakener. Pluto's the great transformer. Together, and remember, all these planets are at the early degree, so they're starting to have conversations with each other. This is a profound time of awakening. And then you got Saturn in there saying, here's what you need to learn, human. Here's what you need to learn in order for your soul to grow. Here's what you need to learn in order for you to find your way back to your essence, which, I believe the essence of everything is love. And so we come back to that essence and we get to enjoy life. We incarnated to come into this form to create, to be, to learn, to grow. This is a really challenging time. There is a lot of shadow right now. And so what do we need to do in a time of shadow? So kind of adjacent to your question is, in this time of awakening to greater consciousness, which I think has been going on a long time, I just feel like it's much bigger now. In this time of awakening to greater consciousness or coming back to more of the essence of who we are as love, what do we do in a world where the shadow is so big? And when I ask my guides that question, they give me this one simple answer. They say, go back and read Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time. And I don't know if you guys read that when you were little, but I loved that book. Go back and read that book and understand that the greatest way to work with shadow is to love, is to be love. And the first step to being love is to accept that you are loved, which means your healing journey is of utmost importance. To know that you are loved, to really feel that you are loved no matter what. That's really, if there's anything else to work with, that is a beautiful place to start. To know you are loved and then to love others. You gotta love yourself first though. And we hear this, it sounds really trite, but it's really actually true. Learn that you are loved, love yourself, then love others, and then just be love. Now, in a world like we're in now, how does that help? Well, this is measurable and is scientifically proven. As we deepen into the frequency of love, we raise our own frequency. This is measurable in the heart.
Yes.
People, this is scientific. It is measurable in the heart. And the field around the body, it is measurably changed as we deepen into appreciation, compassion, gratitude, and love. As our frequency changes, everything around us changes. If we can do that, and if we can do it together, then we have a chance of the shadow receding and the light and the love becoming greater. And I think we would all like that right about now. So, yes, this is an incredible time of awakening. And we have these planets that are I mean, we have more than planets. We have all the beings, as you and I have talked about many times. We have all the beings that are there for support. But those planets, that's not going to ever be like this again in our lifetime. It's going to be thousands of years again before this all happens again. So why not take the opportunity now to deepen, to awaken, to learn? And, coming back to Jupiter, because Jupiter is a really fabulous planet, and I kind of messed it up earlier, but Jupiter in Cancer is to nourish, it's to nurture, it's to gather as the human family. And as it moves into Leo, how do we want to bring our leadership? How do we want to bring that Leo energy of play and joy and leadership into the world? Leo rules the heart. It rules love. So it's all in the stars. It's literally written in the stars. It's like a prescription.
That's so fantastic.
What a beautiful message.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask, it looks like we've already been through one big shift. We're going through another big shift here on the 26th and again in June. So what can we do on those days or around those days? I don't know if it's the week before or the week after, but what is it that we can really do? Is it the same thing in April as it would be in June, or are there certain little subtleties in the things that we can
Yeah,
do?
I love that question. I think it's a great question. And really, we're in it now. So we can, whenever anyone's listening to this, these are things you can do anytime. But I love that they're so specific to, let's start with April. We have a buildup of Aries energy right now. It will, on the 17th of April, we are recording this obviously ahead of that. We're building up to a lot of energy. The 26th, when Uranus goes from Taurus to Gemini, we use the energy we've been given. Okay, so we have a lot of energy. This is how astrology works. We have a lot of energy. We need to embody it. Okay, so Aries energy, Taurus energy. Taurus is embody the energy, center, ground, open our capacity. I have an idea for that. And so one of the things that I would do before the 26th, and even after the 26th, even if you're listening to this a year later, you can still be doing this. Go for a walk and breathe in colors to your energy centers. Okay. So if you start with your root, breathe in every red flower or leaf. If you're in the southern hemisphere, if there's not a lot of color, just find something that's red, breathe it in, but be outside, be in nature. Breathe in color red into your root. Then find something orange, breathe it into your sacral. Then find something yellow and breathe it into your solar plexus. Then find something green or pink and breathe it into your heart. Find something blue, can be the sky. It could be a blue rock. I mean, it could be anything. Breathe in the blue to the throat. Breathe in purple here to the forehead, to the third eye, and breathe in white into the crown. Breathe it in the body. You are inhaling the energy of Earth. And as you exhale, you can relax the jaw and the shoulders and the hips and just allow yourself as you're walking to release anything that's holding you back. As Uranus moves into Gemini, this practice of being very embodied, and it's one of many. I mean, you can do Qigong, you can do Tai Chi, you can do yoga, you can swim, you can ride your horse, you can do whatever it is, but you got to be in your body. As Uranus goes into Gemini, your mind is going to get faster. So one of the things, if you're in your body, you're supporting your head. You want to be able to support your head. You don't want your head to float off. So be in your body. And then this is important. Uranus and Gemini can sometimes feel like anxiety, especially at first as we're getting used to the energy. Now, the reason, how do I know this? So I'm not over 84 years old. The last time it went into Gemini, it was in Gemini last year for just a period of time, little preview. And Anxiety was a lot, well, I know it's high in a lot of places right now, but there was a lot more physical feeling anxiety. It's temporary, but do pay attention to it. Breathe, do what you do to take care of yourself so that your mental chatter, your mind chatter, or your physical body, the electrical energy in your physical body can be regulated. So anything that's a self-regulation tool, super helpful as Uranus goes into Gemini. Okay, so that's that one. As Jupiter goes into Leo, you know what I'm going to say. As it's in Cancer, as we prepare, nourish, nurture, listen to your intuition, be your empathic self, honor your empathy, honor your compassion, honor your boundaries. By the way, Saturn would say that to you too. But Cancerian energy is like, remember, Cancers have the like, so Cancerian energy knows when it's had enough. It's like, "Ooh, I've had enough." Make sure you nurture, make sure you give back to yourself, make sure you nurture your family, your home, that kind of thing. Keep doing that. You're not going to stop doing that. But as we move into Leo, you want to add this, nurture your heart specifically. Anything that has to do with really honoring heart energy. Many people really like heart math, again, a science backed tool that allows you to measurably honor the heart energy, look at heart rate variability, look at how your heart responds when you're under stress or when you're having a certain kind of conversation. You can also breathe into your heart. You can do heart opening, meditations, physical exercise. With Jupiter and Leo, my prescription is to make a list now of what kinds of things you loved to do when you were a kid that you would love to do now. That would be one of the best ways to honor Jupiter and Leo. And it's nice to do it now. And a great way, because a lot of us are under a lot of stress. So one of the best kind of workarounds for this is to just say, if I had more time, I'd love to, and then make a list. And the reason you say it this way is it gives your kind of stressed out self an opportunity to not negate everything.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say, well, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. Well, that may be true. And if you did have time, what would you do to play? What would be playful? What would feel good? What would make your heart feel good? And then another thing we can do for each other, because again, we're not in isolation, is that we can honor people's hearts. We can let people know when we appreciate them. And then guess what? When someone appreciates you, the best thing you can do for your heart is to say thank you and receive it. With Jupiter and Leo, receiving love, receiving appreciation, receiving gratitude. So let's strengthen our receiving muscles. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Those
Love
beautiful.
the way you think.
What wisdom can you share with our audience or anybody that's experiencing maybe an awakening, a spiritual experience, maybe their intuition's being turned on, or just beginning to dive into their own personal inquiry?
That's a great question. First and foremost, go slowly. This is not a race, and it's not a competition. And you're going to feel a sense of urgency. We're in a very, the planets are all moving into fire and air. Everything's combustible right now. And we're in a fire horse year on top of it. So elementally moving quickly, there's an urgency that we feel. So what I would say is no matter that push, and it's not a bad thing to feel the push. I think it's good to feel the push, but drop in, be vertical with your energy. So what do I mean by that? Drop all the way to the core of the earth. Instead of trying to get somewhere, I need to learn this. I better learn it all now. Go this way. How can I go deeper? The deeper you can go, the higher you can go. As you ground into the earth, the more you can awaken to the heavens, right? So go slow. Take your time. and get a mentor. I mean, really, I,
Great.
I mean, I'm serious. Mentors are the way to go. Um, I've been blessed with incredible mentors my whole, especially starting in my 20s, right? So blessed. And I have incredible mentors now. And where would I be without them? I don't know where I'd be. So get a mentor. Find a group, find a community where you have like-hearted and like-minded. So think about it this way. Jupiter in Leo is heart, so like-hearted. Uranus in Gemini, the mind, like-minded. Okay? Air signs are mental, and fire signs are very much about energy and can be about the heart. They're not all about the heart per se, like Leo, but there's, a lot of energy. And Pluto in Aquarius would say, now's the time to find your communities. The ride of technology has been a lot, certainly in my lifetime and your lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
The benefit to the technology, what we're doing right now, is that we're reaching people all over the world right now. There are people in the Southern Hemisphere who are going to be watching this. And this is a community. You have now created a community. And so being in community is one of the best ways to continue the journey. Yes, there's plenty we do on our own. And there are practices that we can learn from classes, courses, mentors, teachers. And we certainly have, I think this is important too. We do have practices. I remember, interestingly, 29 years ago, the last time Saturn was here. Aha! I just thought of this. I started a practice where every day for 5 minutes, I would sit down and I would talk to my guides and I'd ask for just something to look for that day. Just be curious. What should I look for today? And they give me usually an animal symbol of some kind. And this was the animal medicine cards were around, I think, at that time, but this is before the proliferation of every card on the planet. I love oracle cards and I love tarot cards. Tarot has been around forever, but I would sit with my guides and I would say, please give me a sign, something to look for every day for a year and a day. Every morning for a year and a day. That practice 29 years ago, actually, when I really think about it, it really gave me the foundation to do what I'm doing now. I was teaching high school at a Catholic school. And before I'd go teach at the school, which I loved, by the way, I loved my time there. I'm so grateful for meeting all the people I met there. And being able to teach. How much fun was that? But every day before I go off to the school, I'd do my little, practice. And then during the day, I would look for those signs and then come home and I journal about them. And then I had a book that I could look up animal signs and I started to decode my intuition in a new way. And I had already been working with mentors by then. It was not unknown to me. I had already been doing the psychic work, but I knew I had to go a level deeper. And then of course I switched my work up almost immediately after starting that practice. Things changed and my whole life changed, which is good. I wouldn't be where I am today without all of it. So go slow, seek out teachers, guides, mentors, do your practices, seek out a community. This is a community, so you can always start with this community right here. And if you're so inclined, start your own community.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess also with Jupiter going into Leo, be creative. Art, music, beauty, movement. As long as you are engaged in life, Jupiter in Leo would say, engage in the play, engage in the joy, even amidst the challenge, because remember, we're raising our frequency. Yeah.
I love that advice.
That's great.
I hope I take my advice too. I think It's funny. People think, oh, do you have all your own things worked? No, I don't have all my own things worked out. I'm a human being. I wouldn't be here if I had them all worked out.
All a work in
But
progress.
but I'm blessed because I started, and this is really true. I mean, I was 21 when I found my first psychic mentor. I was really lucky. I mean, who gets that? I mean, I know people who have them now when they're younger because, they're my kids' friends and they're like, oh, hey, Denise, can you talk to me about this? Yes, I can. You're 14. Let's talk. So nowadays it's a little different. And certainly in other times, in other cultures, there were mentors for young people. Just, I feel very lucky that I found the ones I did. But again, I have to do my work. I have people I work with and I am grateful, so grateful for the work I get to do and the work I get to receive. It is, it's a very profound journey to constantly be learning and to unwind lifetimes of patterns that may not be serving me in the highest and best way in this time. So I really encourage that as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's been such a joy. Just this conversation has been so rich and fulfilling. Thank you so much for being here with us. I just have thoroughly enjoyed this time. I could go a whole nother hour, honestly. I really could. Can you share with the audience your Monday Cosmic Compass conversations?
Yes, Mondays. Usually, I'm going on a little hiatus soon, but there is 2 more Mondays of Monday Cosmic Compass conversations. They're 10 a.m. Pacific. If people want to sign up for those, they're free. They are on YouTube, but if you want to sign up and be invited to join live, just go to my website, DeniseElizabethByron.com, and something will pop up and you just put your name in and you'll be on my list to invite to the Cosmic Compass conversations. I will say, as this is being released, I am off to go teach in Europe. So I won't be having the Cosmic Compass conversations for a period of time, but you will get newsletters. You will get some information flowing to you about the planets and where we're going. So I will resume in June. So as you're hearing this now, just know I will be back and I have teaching to do in another couple countries, and then I'll be back in the US.
Beautiful.
It's always good to visit another country or two.
So I think whether we're visiting other realms or we're visiting other countries or we're walking through our own neighborhoods with the curiosity of being a visitor in your own home.
Yes. Yes, I
That opens
love
the
that.
mind. That's a very Uranus and Gemini thing to do. So after April 26th, yeah, be a
All
tourist in
right.
your own town.
Well, if any of you feel nourished or inspired by the Veil Between Lives, please subscribe, like, share, comment, or leave a review. It helps these conversations reach the souls meant to find them. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.